Welcome to SEL in EDU.
where we discuss all things social and emotional in education.
I'm Krista.
And I'm Craig, and we are your hosts on this journey.
This podcast is created in partnership with Pennsylvania ASCD. Well, hello, SEL and EDU family. We are thrilled to be back again with you for our extra special guest today. But first, Craig, how are you doing? I know you have some special guests in town.
Yes. I happen to have my parents coming from NOLA. So those who have made me all of this decadent chocolatiness that you have here,
Love it.
they are here, and it's been quite the treat. How are you doing?
I'm good. I mentioned I've spent the last couple of days working in Illinois and Chicago, and so that's been fabulous. And I just got back home. And so just kind of reacclimating and trying to unpack the mess that has been packed and unpacked and repacked for travel. But you have me thinking maybe we need to do a parent session where we get, our parents on to talk a little bit
Hey,
about social emotional learning and how their kiddos turned out.
could be cool. Could be cool.
Back burner. Craig, I am so happy that our guest is joining us today. Elizabeth Peterson. I met her about a year and a half ago on what was considered sort of a new connection social app called Clubhouse. And we had SEL and EDU on Clubhouse. And every time I was so excited to see Elizabeth pop on because I knew she was going to be able to contribute so many amazing pieces to our conversation around social emotional learning. She is working in the classroom and she helps support educators with integrating social emotional learning with the arts in every content area. And so I'm so thrilled that we just get a 45 minutes to chat with her and to dig into her work. So claps all around. Give you her bio, and then we can jump right in and learn all of the best practices and tips and tricks that Elizabeth has to offer us. Teachers are burnt out by disruptive classroom behaviors and the constant piling up of responsibilities. And this is so true after COVID. And before COVID, but it really exacerbated everything, I think. Elizabeth Peterson helps to empower caring teachers with creative social emotional strategies that proactively address these behaviors and ease teacher burnout through SEAL, social emotional artistic learning. An arts integration specialist with degrees in education, music, arts, leadership, and learning, Elizabeth hosts the inspiredclassroom.com. And friends, we will have this linked for you in the resource section. Elizabeth is in her 23rd year in teaching and her 15th year hosting workshops, retreats, and online courses in arts integration and SEAL. Elizabeth knows the importance of a teacher-centered professional learning and development and strives to provide all of that in her work with teachers. Elizabeth, welcome to SEL in EDU. We're so happy.
Thank you so much, Krista and Craig. I'm so excited to get in here and chat it up with you.
Yes, absolutely. So one of the questions that I know in all of our times talking, I really want to ask is, what led you to really want to dig more into social emotional learning? Because I know you look to develop SEAL, and I love that it's social emotional artistic learning. Mm-hmm. And so what was happening that really led you to say, this is a passion of mine, I really want to dig into this and support educators and students at the same time?
Yeah. So I've been doing arts integration since I was student teaching. It was really something that was just near and dear to my heart as a musician who, went to college for a degree in music, and knowing that I wanted to not necessarily be a music teacher, although I was a music teacher for several years. I wanted to just bring my love and joy of music to my students, and I wanted to integrate as much as I could. And so I was able to really dig into that my senior year in college and bring that into my first years of teaching. And from there, I got my degrees in arts and learning, and just a whole world of awesomeness really opened up because not only was I learning things that really made learning come alive for my students, it was so fulfilling to me because I was able to tap into my creativity. I was able to open doors for my students, even in art forms that I didn't feel confident in necessarily, but I could see what it would do for my students. And, when I started teaching in 1999, students were a whole different beast, right? They were a whole different type of person. And over the years, you would just see this evolution of the student. And, it was probably about, I don't know, 10 or so years ago that things were really starting to ramp up. And it was just so palpable. I could feel it in myself. I could see it in my students. I could see it in my colleagues. And then, I've always enjoyed doing things like the character ed, in my classroom, the teaching the soft skills. I used to love, teaching about respect and responsibility. But then this thing came, to our district called SEL. And I'm thinking, oh goodness, it's just going to be another thing that I'm going to have to do, right? But I also realized that it was needed, like something was going to give, right? So I decided to, okay, I'm going to pay attention to what this person's saying on the stage. And every time she would bring up a new competency, all I could think of was, we do this with the arts. That's what we do. You want to build community. Let's do a percussion circle. Let's listen to music together. You want to talk about self-awareness and discover who you are. That can be done through visual art, so social awareness, that is drama. And the more that I was looking at all of these different competencies, I was just like, okay, I got this. I think I got this. So I went back to my classroom and I just started experimenting with my own students, and they loved it. They just took to this new focus so well. So and then I brought some of those activities and ideas into my retreats and my workshops with teachers. And that's when the teachers were like, oh, this is great stuff. And so it slowly grew, and SEAL was born, social emotional artistic learning. And it has been exploding, which is so amazing. Yeah.
When you say that there were that there was this shift in students,
Yeah.
We started teaching around the same time, and immediately I was transported back to, that was, if I remember correctly, like our time of No Child Left Behind, and
Yeah.
a lot of the focus on the test scores and the math and the ELA and the science, and unfortunately not the social studies, which is what I taught, or the arts, which is what
Right.
you were working in. And one of the things that I've really appreciated about the work that you do is that it's for every content area. And so could you talk a little bit about how you work with teachers who say, well, I teach science or I teach social studies. I'm not sure how this fits in for me.
Right. One of the things that I've always been amazed at and quite proud of too is that whenever I do a workshop or teach a course or have a host a retreat, the span of teachers goes pre-K through 12 and sometimes beyond, and all different content areas, because the arts are so adaptable, and they're so naturally differentiated that so many teachers can use them in their content area. So, I think, for example, science, I think dance and movement is just such a natural combination with science and learning about how things work and being able to move through those scientific processes and such as that. And, there's just so many applications that teachers can utilize if they're given those little seeds of ideas, and then they take that and they're the expert in their content, and then they can start to really have some amazing things come out. Yeah.
I, really appreciate there's a number of things that I saw that you share in multiple ways. One, just your hashtag stay positive, right? And
Yeah.
so in the midst of all the things that teachers are facing today, uh, some teachers can feel very disillusioned by political conditions, lack
Hmm.
of resources, feeling burned out. In the conversations that you're having with educators who are trying to figure out how they're going to hold on, what are some, I guess, what are your top two or three, uh, toolkit practices that you are sharing with educators and trying to stay positive?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one, Craig. Because even in the last few weeks, I've found myself, starting to get drowned. Right. I'm
Mhm.
starting to feel it too. And what I actually did was I started going back and taking my own advice.
Mm.
And actually, really taking that step back. And the very first thing is realizing what it is you need, like your individual needs. And what I kind of figured out was I needed to get outside and take a walk during my lunch break.
Mhm.
I needed to limit myself to how much social media and the such that I watch outside of school, so that I can, kind of take take my own boundaries and barriers in terms of that,
Mhm. Yeah,
and keep with the positive
yeah.
things that I need to do, But there are three really main things that I like to tell teachers that they need to really think about in terms of what they can do to kind of really help them to understand boundaries. It really,
Mhm.
really boils down to boundaries. And it can be um, one huge one is email,
Mhm.
knowing how to turn that email off, leave it at school, keep it on the school computer. I do not have my school email on my phone. I think
Mhm.
that is a bad no-no. Even if it's all good emails, it doesn't matter. Like,
Mhm.
when I'm out of school, I really, really need to focus on my family and my personal needs. Um, and so I have my school email on an old phone that I can turn on and charge up if I really feel it's necessary to check email. Um, Another thing is, your school bag. And that's just kind of like a physical and visual representation of if you leave your school bag at school or you have a relatively empty school bag coming home with you. That's a really important thing too in terms of boundaries, because um, you really need to figure out how you can separate yourself from school and clear your mind and be able to come home and be there for yourself and your family and your friends and what you want to do. And and lunchtime also, that is teachers' time. I really, really believe that it should be in teachers' contracts that it is a duty free, uninterrupted lunchtime for you to take a break. And
Mhm.
so, just knowing what is going to work for you. If you need to make copies, okay. If you need to sit in the teachers, you need to do it whatever way you want to, go into the teacher's room, stay
Mhm.
away from negative people for sure. But
Yeah.
if you need to sit at your own desk and eat and just kind of be away from people, or like what I've been doing the last couple of weeks, which has been amazing. I eat and then I go for just a 10-minute walk, and man, that is just so helpful. And
Mhm.
so just
Mhm.
really understanding what your boundaries are, what you're willing to really set up as your boundaries, and what's going to work for you personally, I think is important.
No, I appreciate you for sharing that. Looking at a number of the posts that you've put on Twitter, and I know we'll share your Twitter information. But there are some very meaningful posts for me when I look at what you shared. You know, has the thought of resigning from your job crossed your mind? before you quit. Here's a couple of things you can do, right? And
Yeah.
you have a beautiful YouTube channel that you share. You are a very big proponent of aromatherapy, and
Yeah.
even though I know that my wonderful audience can't see us, but like I have a candle that I got from a local shop that has oud wood and ginger,
Ooh.
and just the I love ginger, I love cardamom, I love sandalwood, love lavender. But I in my office have a candle that hopefully I'm not violating the fire safety, but I will. I'm willing to have that in my office, and um, some of the things you shared, like I eat and walk. So there are a couple of times a week where I literally will take a 15 or 20-minute walk. I might be on a call, I might not. I might eat my apple, eat my pear, eat my peach, eat my banana, and I'll take a walk and mindfully just kind of enjoy the weather before the snow comes.
Hmm.
And so a lot of what you're sharing here are things that we know are tried and true. We talk about it with young people in regards to tools they have in their toolkit. But I also appreciate you sharing, like, hey, sometimes I gotta take my own advice.
Exactly.
Yes, yes, yes.
Girl, start practicing when you preach, right? Get yourself out of this slump.
Look, we all are in it. So like when you would talk about them, like, look, that is me too. So yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Well, and this is all really practical pieces. Like they're very specific things that are doable. And I think that, sometimes my former self would have been like, oh my God, not take anything home. So maybe it's just starting off with one day a week. Like
Yes.
maybe Thursdays you don't take anything home, and then you slowly, like, I've been really thinking about setting small goals, because sometimes I
Mhm.
think I set my goals too big, and that's why I get frustrated with myself. But what you've provided are very actionable pieces that help you be the best teacher, Elizabeth, that you can be when you go back for your students. And I think that that is really important, is that you're not putting that piece, away, but you're getting what you need for yourself and for your family to be able to re-engage again at 100%.
Exactly. That's so true. And that's just part of knowing what you actually need. If it's going to be too stressful to not take home papers and get them done before you go to work the next day, that's okay too. But segment your time, like you said, do it once or twice a week. Give yourself the limit, and if you don't correct them all, that might be what just happens that week. Maybe you just don't correct them all that week. And maybe just put a big star on it and pass it back.
We talk about grace, right? And so giving
Yeah.
yourself some grace. And
Yes.
and I think that kind of tiptoes into the two, that not every single thing needs to be graded.
Right.
That you can still look over something and give some feedback,
Mm-hmm.
or even talk to a student about it. Um, that's really important.
Certainly. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm reminded that you're both up in the Northeast. And so getting to see this gorgeous fall and enjoy the weather. And it also reminds me too that the professional learning that you offer, before COVID, I know it was in person, but it's also offered virtually. And I bring this up because I want our listeners to know that even if they're not living in the Northeast, that all of this material, this work, and I love here that you have it's on a budget, because I know sometimes we go out and we're like, oh, this would be great. This would fill my bucket, give me new ideas. And then you look at the price tag and you're like, oh yeah, that's not happening.
Yeah. Yeah. I came out with I have two SEAL courses. One is a large 45-hour, like built to be a 3-credit course that really digs into SEAL and certifies teachers as a SEAL teacher. But I wanted to get SEAL into as many teachers' hands as possible, because there's not just the activities and the lessons and the strategies, but there's also that mindset piece that is huge. And so that's why I created the SEAL Foundations course, and it's a lot less money And it's, it is very doable, and it's a 10-hour, you can do it. You can do it in a little overnight getaway type of thing. And yeah, and just get started with these simple, creative strategies that can really make such a difference in your classroom and for you. And as a huge advocate for teachers, I think that is the single most important part of any professional development. Certainly it is for SEAL.
One of the things that I'm thinking about, because we both do work in social emotional learning and know just how important it is, and that these are foundational skills for our students and, quite honestly, for all of us to grow in, to be good human beings. What are some of the myths that maybe you see around social emotional and artistic learning, or maybe some misconceptions that people come to you with, that you're able to help them see a different perspective or show them a different entry point that maybe they hadn't thought about before?
Oh, I love this, Krista. I love this because this is so timely, right? Because so many people are getting like the wrong idea of what is at the core of social emotional learning. And, they may layer in all these, politics, and, teachers are trying to force values that don't line up with their family values. But while I sadly know that in some cases that is happening, okay, because I'm a realist, that is happening in places. But what I think is really important to understand is that the term social emotional learning is not a bad term. At its core, it's about getting students ready to learn, because their social and emotional skills are at a huge deficit. And I mean, come on, anybody living in this world can understand that. And so when you have students coming into your classroom with trauma, putting their hoodies over their faces because they can't face the world right now, how the heck are you going to teach them a math lesson and do your job as an academic teacher and without doing something for that student? And as teachers who are caring, they are just caring beings. They go into this job to make a difference to some degree. They can't just let that kid just sit there and do nothing. And so, I've been looking at it. I think my last video that I just dropped on YouTube was about Maslow before Bloom. And that's really what this is all about. If our kids don't come to the classroom prepared to learn, then they cannot learn or not learn efficiently. And so our job becomes building relationships, not just with our students, but student to student. Exactly. It becomes making sure that their physiological needs have been met. And if not, we have the resources in our schools to provide for that. If someone's coming in with issues, I'm not a therapist, but I know what resources there are that are available. And that's part of my job. And I feel like that's part of the new role of a teacher. And we have to embrace that role if we are going to do what we set out to do, which is teach kids. We have to really embrace this idea that our students need us, and they need us to be able to see what is a barrier between them and the learning that we're supposed to be giving them.
I really love the way you just said that. I think that feels like a very quotable piece that we'll be pulling out.
Awesome.
I am curious, as in my mind is whirling with so many different questions, and I love the starfish that are on your wall. So I am kind of mesmerized and thinking about several things.
Yeah.
Who is part of your adventure squad that helps to keep you motivated and positive and focused on this work?
Ooh, you said part of my what squad?
I call them your adventure squad. So who are the
Oh,
people
I love
who
it.
y'all get y'all inspired classroom capes on, you soar, into spaces, and you just rain down unicorn dust and magic and positivity. So I'm just curious, who flies in with you? Because it feels like you're gonna fly in with, like, lavender and lemongrass, and I just feel like it's a whole. It's
Ooh, you got a whole thing going here, Craig. I'm digging it. I'm digging it a lot, really.
a little bit of, part of my degree was actually in drama. So yeah.
Oh, well, there
Mhm.
you go.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Awesome. Yeah. So I truly love what I do with teachers. I really, really do. And their their enthusiasm and their sense of caring, even on days when I come home and I'm like, oh, that was the hardest day ever. Like, I might get an email from a teacher who's just saying something about how, they tried something out and it really worked, and they're so positive about going in the next day, and it's like that just like jumps off the screen, and it just keeps me going. And what I think is so exciting is that, through working with other teachers, my reach can be a little further, so the dust that you were talking about is sprouting all over the place there. But I have, you have to say, I've always been so fortunate to have a very supportive family who, allows me to take over spaces when I'm doing crazy creative things, or, is silent when I'm doing a podcast interview because they know, whatever it might be. And so I think that is, them allowing me to be who I would like to be as an educator, not just to students, but with other teachers too, is just so, I don't know, it's just a great gift that I've been given. And that's in my Avengers team. There you go.
Yes.
All around.
And as you're talking, I'm seeing this manifested in the way that you work with students and teachers, because you just said that you have family that allows you to kind of explore and be you. And that's what we want for our educators and for our students. And I can't think of any better way to do that than to integrate the arts into everything, because it reminds me, like, wow, way back when we were younger, when Dead Poet Society came out and Robin stood up on top of the desk and was talking to his students, and just paraphrasing, it was about the arts is what brought life to things. That through music and dance and like actual seeing art that people have created and sculpture, and like that was what gave life meaning, added the beauty to it. And years ago, there was a big crisis around the country, and that with budgets being cut, that was one of the first things that people turned to, which was so wrong. Some of our students are thriving on that. And, that's why they show up to school, to be their authentic selves and to have that experience, that creativity, and that be encouraged to be creative in all of their classes, not just, oh, I'm going to music or I'm going to my drama class, or it should be infused everywhere.
It should. It absolutely should. And I myself, I don't even know if we even said this, but myself, I'm a upper elementary teacher. So I'm teaching third grade right now. And my big advice to other classroom teachers and teachers all over is that sometimes you need to just press the pause button on your crazy schedule and the lesson plans and the be on lesson 2A by Thursday, November 2nd, all that kind of stuff. Sometimes you just need to press the pause button and do something creative with your students. And again, when I take my own advice and I actually do that in my classroom, there's such a difference. There truly is, because something happens when you share an artistic experience with your group of people, your classmates, your teacher. When you do that, the all of the stuff that you want to happen with social emotional learning just happens. And that's why SEAL can be so effective, because it's built on experiences like that. They don't have to be all big. You don't have to carve out 45 minutes every day for this. I'm talking little simple things that you can do, but it's those experiences that you have with your classmates and your teacher that really can make such a huge difference, for, like you said, going to school even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I am, curious in some of the workshops that you're doing with educators, and I know you offer like a free workshop.
Yeah.
Um, and is this a time where we could get our like 64 color crayon box from Crayola and you go like, do you send us off on like a little scavenger hunt to pick up a bunch of things so we can come together and create and experience things? Like I feel like it is like my juices are flowing. So I'm just kind of curious, like what happens? And I know like you want to reel people in, but I'm just like, okay, so what we gonna do? Like we building cakes? Can I get my Crayolas out? You know, do I need a canvas? Like, what happens? Because I feel like, what you're about to do is just share like magic and like, okay, you got your own little toolkit, you
Mhm.
got your stuff, we're
Yeah.
gonna do some movement. I don't know. I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah. In the classroom or with teachers or both? All
With teachers,
right.
because
So,
I'm really thinking about that theme that you've been sharing. Like you really have been pouring a lot of energy into other teachers who are
yeah.
trying to find that magic in the midst of the madness. And so really trying to think about like, okay, well, how are you doing that when you too are in the classroom as well, trying to
Yeah.
stay with it?
So I 100% believe in teacher-centered professional development. And I
Mm,
really believe that teachers need professional development that's built for them at their level, so that they can bring it back to their students and they can feel confident bringing it back to their students. Because, everyone talks about student-centered, student-centered. Okay, my classroom is student-centered, but my professional development needs to be teacher-centered. And
mm,
so, yes, get that 64 crayon box out, because in the courses, it's a hands-on. You are doing the things that you're learning, so that you feel comfortable and confident to bring it into your students. um, because not every teacher with SEAL, we're talking music, dance, drama, and visual art, and
mm,
very few people really feel confident in all four of those art forms, let alone all the
mm,
different competencies and all that kind of thing. So giving the teachers the experience of, we do stuff with starfish. That's a big part of SEAL. Looking at your students as starfish. We do some visual creation with that. We've got movement strategies that we practice ourselves that do involve stretching and breathing and moving and dance elements. And so, even though it's online, which kind of makes it a little safe also for teachers,
mm,
there's an online community and all that stuff too, which is always good. But being able to just kind of experiment at your own pace in your own space, and then, like I said, you're just more apt to bring it to your students instead of being talked at.
mm,
Oh, that's a great idea, let me write that down, and then you put it on your shelf, and it just gets lost.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and I love that if you go onto your social media, you can see some of the work that teachers have been doing. And so, Craig, I know where that idea came from, because you probably saw you had a paper that had some boxes that people were sketching in, and then you had a really beautiful picture that somebody created of you.
Oh yeah, that was so cool.
Um, and that was amazing. And it really is about let's experience this first, because if I'm not comfortable with it, it's hard to open that up to, 25 or 30 other people in a room.
Yeah.
And so, letting people have that opportunity to be creative, to be curious, to try things out, see what works for them. But like you said, how does it then connect to those teachable moments with the SEL competencies? And I love too that you're very much, I think, like me and a Castle purist. Like, so when we talk five
Yes.
competencies, we're talking the same language here.
Yes.
Yes. And so Craig's
Do a little dance.
also a dancer. He said drama, but he also dances.
I see it. I see it.
Yep. And so I just feel like this is something that is so energizing for people and can help you. So if you're feeling kind of stressed and burned out and people are like, oh, I don't want to do another professional learning. Like, no, if you get into the right professional learning, it inspires you and connects you to other people and fills your bucket. It's not time away from anything, but it's time put back into you. And I really think that that's what your work provides for people. That's what you've developed.
Thank you, Krista. I really appreciate that. That's the goal.
And so I know if people want to be, we are going to put your social media pieces in the resources section. And I know Craig's going to drop a big question on you in a minute. So in that moment, well, until then, if you could share with us, how can people get a hold of you? Because we know you write articles for Edutopia and you have your website and social media. How can people find you and sign up for these amazing classes?
Yeah, so you can go to theinspiredclassroom.com. That has all the stuff. And then I have a hub for SEAL, and that is teachseal.com. And that has some free lesson plans, some free resources, that free workshop. It's got the information about the 2 SEAL courses. It's got a lot of good stuff on there. And yeah, it'll keep people busy for a little while if they're interested.
Thank you.
Yes. So,
all right, I'm ready.
Here we go. So,
okay.
All right. And Krista doesn't know I'm gonna have a secondary question that I have, but I'm gonna ask this one. So what do you consider to be your SEL superpower?
Oh man. Okay. SEL superpower.
You're right. He brings it.
Dang. Okay.
I love this question.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pull out my SEL words. Oh.
But see, I love that you did that.
Oh my
gosh. Why I have to tell you, when I'm working with groups, I start off after a while, I'm like, okay, what are the 5 competencies? And they're like, I'm like, it's not a trick question. Like talk to each other. But then like when we know these words, when we know what competencies they fit into, it's like wearing a pair of glasses, because then we notice it and can be really explicit about it with our students when we're seeing it happen, or when we want to bring attention to it because we'd like to see something else happen. So I love that you have these words, because I used to keep the 5 competencies on a sticky note on my computer. Yep. And so every time I opened up my computer, I'd be looking.
That's funny. I love that. Yes. I would have to say, I think it might be patience. I feel like in my life experiences, my teaching experiences, I have become a very patient person. Even if that patience sometimes is just visible on the outside, I have learned that I can't get overexcited about certain things. Like if I'm working with a student who is shutting down or acting up, I get to show patience, and I have to learn how to, I guess this would be part of self-awareness and even a little self-management, because I know, you have to take those deep breaths and calm yourself down without being too noticeable. You know what I mean? You don't want to take away from whatever the child or the teacher is going through, but you want to be able to be there and be patient and to be listening. And so it's It's yeah, I would say patience.
That's a great
That
one.
works. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Well, I know that it's been great to have you, Elizabeth, here with us and our SEL and EDU family. It is an honor to be in space and time with you because we know that you are infusing art and heart
Yes.
into thousands of young people and adults through your genius. And so we're really excited and grateful that you joined us today.
Oh, thank you so much, Craig.
I think that could be a new tagline because I think that's perfect. Infused and heart.
I'm just
Mhm.
saying.
That's good. That's
Hey,
good. That's going to be the quote we pull from you.
hey, a little magic, a little magic.
Along with the dust.
Yes.
I'm just saying, it's all good, it's all good. I'm feeling really inspired. I really am feeling inspired. It really has me like pull out my so I'm on a healing journey, and so I have this
Mm.
wonderful piece here that I've developed, which is centered on a butterfly and a tree. And the big question I'm trying to solve for is what kind of ancestor am I trying to be? And
Ooh,
so that's a big life question that I'm asking myself. But I love the art, art infusion of that work. So I'm
that
just
is
saying that
amazing. Yeah.
you have really inspired me to like pull out my I'm probably gonna pull out my Crayola after today and just have a look.
You have a sharpener on the brush? Is it the kind with the sharpener? 'Cause they
Yes,
really were
yes.
the
It
best.
has to be. That's the only
I got
way
the
to
markers. I got everything. But okay, but I know that we all have to close. It's been so great, and so for SEL and EDU family, it has been an honor and a pleasure to have Elizabeth Peterson here. We are excited that you have the opportunity to connect to her in all the ways that have been shared and will be populated here on our website. So, gotta check her out, connect, subscribe, do all the good stuff that you need to do. So for our SEL and EDU family, until we meet again, we want you to hold yourself and your loved ones dear and tight as we continue to stand strong in the SEL light. Sending y'all love. Y'all take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Take care.